Hello everyone. So I'd like to welcome you to this great presentation on Wikis as effective collaborative writing tools in EAP programs. So I'm Dr. Rashad Ahmed from Jacksonville State University. Joining me, Dr. Abdul Talib from Philadelphia University in Jordan, and Dr. Marilla Silva from the University of Illinois at Chicago. So we'll be talking about wikis, what they are, why do we use them. We'll give you an overview of the literature on this topic and how do wikis work and a specific example that you can use in your classroom. I'll start with the introduction. So what are wikis? Wiki by itself is known as a Hawaiian word, which means quick, and it has different definitions. So one definition here is a collaborative web space consisting of a number of pages that can be edited by any user. And this is actually what distinguishes wikis from other platforms, the ability to edit the page by any user who uses the platform. So wiki environments offer an extensively interactive and flexible environment. And this is very useful for second language acquisition and second language learning in general. So why we should use wikis? So as you can see here, there are pros and there are cons. So let's start with the pros. Using wikis will really help us guide and facilitate student preparation for class. It will give us a collaborative workspace for projects, especially writing projects. So when you want students to work collaboratively on a writing project, wikis are very helpful. It helps foster student expertise. Wikis also provide a place for teachers to upload supplementary materials, especially for those instructors who don't have access to platforms like Canvas, Blackboard. It gives students the opportunity to comment on students' writing prior to drafting final paper. When it comes to the disadvantages, it can be really difficult to get all students up and running, and this is the case with any other online platform. When it comes to designing wikis, it's also tricky because you have to design it in a way that is easy to navigate through and is easy to interact with the students. So that's another disadvantage there. Also, grading, reading, keeping up with it can be a little bit challenging. Other than that, wikis have been proven to be really useful, especially for collaborative projects. Studies such as Davidson 2012 have concluded that wikis are very useful, not only for dominant students, but also for those students who are shy in the classroom, and they provide transparency for non-performers and high achievers. So this is another reason why wikis are very useful. A very important question here that some of you might be asking, okay, how is a wiki different from all of these other online platforms? So a wiki is different from a traditional website because, in a website, it is a frozen platform with barely any interaction or collaboration. A blog, you have authors who would post, and then you have readers who would just write comment. There isn't a live interaction, there isn't any type of collaboration happening there. A discussion board, you have participants write posts in response to one another, but do not create a page or document. They do not work on a project together on a discussion board. A chat room where you have participants interact, but do not create anything together. The same thing with Facebook. It's more, somebody posts something and then the other would comment on that. So wiki, the distinguishing factor here is that it is flexible and it is really useful for collaborative work where everybody can meet virtually at different times or at the same time, and they can work on a specific project collaboratively. So here are a number of tips if you decide to use wikis in your classroom. You should provide a template, an example, or a guide for wiki posts. So make sure also that the grading policy is clear. How are you going to grade students? Are you going to grade them in groups or individually? That has to be clear. If you are grading them as groups, what are the different criteria? As with any other platform, with any other system, you should expect to receive some complaints, or you should expect some challenges. So make sure to address all of those challenges as they occur. But to encourage participation, you should make posts part of class participation grade. That way you can really have students to utilize these tools for collaboration. Make reference to students' online writing in class. Maybe use it as a part of class discussion, or maybe as an assessment. So these are just a few tips for you to remember as you design your wikis. Now, my colleague, Dr. Abdul Talib, will give us more information about the literature behind wikis and their use for collaborative writing. Thank you.
Like many other internet-based tools, wiki-based writing has been a topic of a great interest to second language researchers and second language learners. Actually, wikis took place with the emergence of Web 2, the second version of the World Wide Web, which is known for its participatory functions. Unlike the first version, Web 1, which was a read-only platform. Wikis have been discussed widely in second language learning research as a technique for writing collaboratively. And collaborative writing through wikis takes its theoretical impetus from different theoretical perspectives, including the sociocultural theory proposed by Vygotsky in 1978 and the computer-mediated communication theory, as well as the output hypothesis. These are very important theoretical frameworks in second language learning and second language acquisition, and they all emphasize that individuals interact to construct knowledge. Vygotsky suggested that knowledge that students would gain individually is less than knowledge constructed collaboratively. So learning is a social activity, and the principal concept of this theory is what has been known as a ZPD. To this theory, the ZPD emphasizes the role of collaboration. It also serves to measure the degree in which learners' knowledge increases while interacting with their peers. So learning is a social interacting. Computer-mediated communication, which indicates that communication is mediated through computer and now technological tools and applications, and the learners through these technological platforms exchange ideas and thoughts, and they use the second language, and these technological facilities give students an opportunity to use the language on different platforms and on different applications. And this integration enables writing and helps students share ideas, negotiate meaning, and write collaboratively. The output hypothesis proposed by Swain in 1985 emphasizes that students produce the output to realize what they know or do not know. So the output hypothesis Swain proposed that the input hypothesis proposed by Stephen Krashen and his followers is not enough for second language learning or second language acquisition to take place. She proposed the output hypothesis, which is centered around writing, and students should produce the language. It's not just the input, but also the students should produce the language. And according to this hypothesis, that writing students construct the output and resolve their problems with the aid of their classmates, and thereby facilitating their second language learning. In 2006, Swens developed the idea of the output hypothesis into what has been known as collaborative dialogue and languaging, which is a process of making meaning and shaping knowledge and experience through language. So it is a cognitive process of negotiating and producing meaning comprehensible input as part of language learning. So Vygotsky indicated that language is a social interaction, is a social activity, and interaction is more important. And Swain also emphasized that language acquisition and language learning is a matter of interaction and meaning making. So there are many studies which have been conducted on collaborative writing and wikis, and most of those studies affirm that second language learners who work collaboratively develop grammatical accuracy, vocabulary, and discursive aspects. And wikis have been suggested by several researchers as a technique for promoting essay writing. And according to some studies which have been conducted on wikis and collaborative writing, argued and the findings that students increase the amount of writing, and wikis were found by the participants more motivating. Studies also including the instructor's perceptions and attitudes towards wikis-based collaborative writing in second language acquisition. There was also a focus on peer review in collaborative writing, and studies investigated the significance of feedback and students that the students give one another through wikis and web-based as a web-based application. To plan, to edit, and revise what. So it is an environment in which they can edit, discuss, and they also have many different facilities that promote interaction. So a wiki environment is conducive for effective collaborative among learners, and this has been evidenced by prior research and has by theoretical foundation. And collaborative is a medium to promote content sharing and knowledge construction. So it is important for interaction, for sharing, for building texts. So this is a point that I end this theoretical background and literature review. So web-based collaborative writing in second language context is important, and it has been investigated widely, and this presentation reinforces the prior claims, and it also reinforces that two heads are better than one when it comes to writing collaboratively. Thank you.
Okay, so I am Dr. Morella Silva with the University of Illinois at Chicago, and I'm going to walk you through an activity with PB Works, which I have used in my classroom several times, both in person and virtually. So it's very useful nowadays. So we're going to be using PB Works because it's a free website. Students can collaborate. And student activity can be recorded on the web page. Unlike Google Docs, which is also free, you can't see the recorded activity. You can see the final product, but you can't really see who is doing what and how much they participated and what were the changes they made from throughout the process. So that's the interesting part of this activity, because you can really monitor progress and, if necessary, see who is doing what, who's participating more or less. You can, throughout the project, you can tell them, you can make suggestions, or you can ask students to participate a little more. So it's very interesting. And there's also a chat, a comment function where they can talk to one another while they are writing the text. So that's very useful from PBWorks. That's the reason I picked it, and I highly recommend it. What you're going to do is you need to create your educator account. Just go into the website. So it shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to create your account. It's very simple, pbworks.com. Once you've created your account, you will be able to create the assignments, and you are going to be you are allowed to have many tabs and many different assignments. So I have here screenshots of my PBWorks account, because if I show you my account, you'll be able to see all of my students' names and their their email addresses. So once you've created your web page, your page, you're going to divide students into groups. I suggest smaller groups, pairs or groups of 3, because that way everybody gets a chance to write something and participate. Larger groups have shown that you always have a couple of students who are not participating. That's my perception so far. So this is the writing prompt we're working with for Unit 4. This is a composition, 100-level composition class for ESL students in a university. And we were talking about advertising. So they had to write an opinion essay to learn how to have opinions. And here are the instructions of what they had to do. And you can click on edit and change the font size. It looks a lot like a Word document. So you can do whatever you want. You can insert pictures and build it any way you want, and then publish it. So students will be able to come in and write their essay. So that's what the page looks like. So this is what their final product looked like. This is their text. I had 3 students working in this group, so this is what you're going to see once their writing is done, is completed. And this is the main page. However, you will see on the next page, the next slide, if you click on page history, what it is that you are able to see. And you can see all of the changes one by one. If you want, through page history, you will see hundreds of page histories depending on how much work they have done. So this is what it looks like if you look at the page history. This was my final page history. I looked at their last changes. So you can see what they have crossed out, what they've underlined is what they copied and pasted. You can see little changes, things they've deleted. This was their final revision of their writing. So you make little changes. If you click on them, you'll be able to see students' names and more information on how much they worked on the page. So it's very interesting because you can see their work, their process of working on this too, and you can see who participated more and who was having more difficulty and the ones who were more active. So that's very interesting to see. Here is a sample of their comments session, which comes at the bottom of the writing page, and students can chat through them. So I have some very brief conversations that were held, and you can see they said small things like, "Hi, I'm making the summary, can I change some words?" So they can write and at the same time chat one another within that one group that you created. To wrap up, I wanted to talk a little bit about the students' perceptions and attitudes after, because this was a study I conducted as well. Even though I do this activity all the time in class, I also did some research on what students felt like when they were working with this type of activity. So their perception and attitude was a little bit, was more on the positive side. I had some closed-ended questions, open-ended questions, and interviews as well. Most students thought they had, if they enjoyed the wiki-based activities, they all said they liked it and they thought it was useful. And I have a few of their words to show you some of the things they said about the activity. So some of the things students said about this activity was it is a good way to help your team, so they like teamwork and how your team helps you highlight your mistakes and correct them. So they were very into that, how other people, they helped one another. They can connect everywhere, every time, so you have the virtual part of it that they could be anywhere working on their assignments like everybody does nowadays, but collectively as a group. Collaborating, and the student learned typing and writing skills with my group members, so they were able to teach something other than the actual assignment. They were working on typing and writing skills as well. Well, everybody, that's what we had for today. Thank you for coming. If you have any questions, because this is a recording, you can email us and let us know about your questions, all right? Thank you very much.